Hi, everyone, and welcome again to our third session this week. Today, we're going to be learning about interview skills, and we have a very special guest to conduct this conversation. It's going to be Lindsay Bryant. She is with our Human Resources Department, and she's going to talk to you guys today about interview skills. So a few things before we get started. For the students that are joining us today, if you can, please enter your student ID number in the chat so that we can have your information, because we will be giving away a prize today. So we want to make sure that we know who you are. So please enter your student ID number in the chat so that we have your information, and we will be doing that giveaway at the end of the presentation. I want to thank you all guys for joining us, and we're excited to learn more about interview skills. So I'm going to hand it off now to Lindsay Bryant.
Good afternoon. I almost said good morning, but it's not morning anymore. I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you all for having me. I figured I'll go through some of the basic HR things that we try to recommend to our fellow applicants that apply for positions with us. And then if you have any questions or anything as we go, please let us know. And I will answer your questions to the best of my ability. So to get started, so HR is a funny place. We see lots of things happen that we assume is common sense, but when you're not applying for jobs, very often it's something that you may not think about, or if you're very new to the job market, something you may just not know. So I think one of the most important things on the list of when you're applying for a job, when you're interview, is to always be on time. Say to be on time, that's usually like 5 minutes early, especially when you're coming to an organization like OC. We're pretty much a little community in a community, so there's lots of buildings, there's lots of roadways, different things that could happen that could make you late if you're not planning on getting here ahead of time. So again, always be on time. That's typically 5 minutes. You want to make sure that you're planning ahead for traffic. You want to make sure you're planning ahead if you're not going to the right building, those types of things. And then of course, we're human. So sometimes things happen, and us as humans in human resources, your interview committees, whatever that looks like, we understand that. So if for some reason you are going to be late because of a wreck or traffic, whatever the case may be, just make sure you give a phone call. That way, whoever is getting that interview started knows what's happening, and they can convey that to the hiring manager, things like that. And that way it's not held against you. Second, something that you want to always be very well prepared for is the way that you dress for interviews. No matter what the position is that you're interviewing for, you want to make sure that you're professionally dressed. Typically that means no jeans. Sometimes that may be what you have, and that's okay too, but there's still a way to make your jeans look professional. If possible, try not to wear holes in your jeans. If you have to wear jeans, we recommend that you don't wear tennis shoes if at all possible. And then make sure your hair and things are well groomed, fixed. One of the things that I know as we progress, one of the things that we're seeing a lot here lately is people come in for interviews and they may have bright blue hair, bright pink, or bright purple hair. Sometimes that's not the best look for an interview, so something to be aware of when you're in those types of situations. When you get ready to meet whoever it is that you're interviewing with, you want to make sure that you have good eye contact. You want to come across that you're confident, you're prepared, you're ready, and you are not intimidated by the interview that's happening. One of the things that we do here at OC that could be intimidating to an applicant if they're not ready is we do interview committees. So when you come in, chances are you're going to be interviewed by 5 or more people. For me personally, I like that better because I can kind of focus my attention on different people. But it may be a question that when HR calls you or whoever's setting up your interview calls you, ask who you're interviewing with. That way you're more prepared for the setting that comes with that. We do here in HR, a lot of times when we do schedule an interview, I'll get a question like, can you tell me the names of who I'm going to be interviewing with? If that makes you more comfortable as an applicant, feel free to do so. As HR, we don't mind doing that whatsoever, and we'll share that information for you. And sometimes those who like to be really prepared, it just makes things easier for them. So definitely something that you can do. Typically, when you're interviewing, one of the very first things that you're going to be asked is to give a brief description of yourself. So you want to be prepared for that with that information. I think typically when a supervisor, hiring manager, whoever it is, ask you for that, they're kind of looking to see who you are as a person. So make sure that you give them those characteristic traits like you're always prepared, you're always on time, you're proactive, you're a hard worker, those types of things, but also make sure to include the personal information as well. Do you have a family? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? Those types of things. That way you're giving that hiring person a chance to get to know who you really are. When applying for a position, know where you're applying. One of the questions that you would typically be asked when applying for a job here at OC is, tell us what you know about Odessa College. We want to make sure that you know what you're applying for and that you're prepared to answer those questions, and that you are truly invested in who we are as a company. And that's why you've chosen us to interview with. So if possible, log on to the website, ask what the vision is. That way you know what the company is looking for. You could ask them what their mission is. Usually if it's a big corporation or community college, things like that, you're going to find that on the website. So you'll have all that information at your fingertips. So make sure you're looking at that. Again, Odessa College is known for the awards that we've won over the last few years. Our president, when you get to a final interview with him, he wants to know that you know where Odessa College stands on that. That way he knows that you're completely invested in us and you know what you're getting into. Know what the company's known for. You would be surprised how many people will say, well, what do you know about Odessa College? And they'll be like, oh, well, you're in Odessa. Yes, we are in Odessa, but what else? What are we doing? How are we changing education? So really try to dig deep into the company values. That way you can give that information if asked. And then also too, a lot of times if they're a big company, you know what they're trying to do as a company, you know where they're trying to move forward to and what that needle looks like. That way you can give them that information too. And again, this just shows them how invested you are in the company and that you took a few minutes to really kind of deep dive and know where you're applying. When I visit with people about interviewing, especially if I have family members, friends, things like that, asking me about interview questions, there's quite a few questions that just are going to be asked. So I typically tell them, think of these things. What is your answer going to be? That way you don't have to think about it. So I'll name off a few of those that you typically are asked. Like one is, what are you looking for in this career opportunity? That way they know what your goals are and where it is that you're wanting to move with that company. A lot of times they're trying to gauge, like, how long do you want to be with us? Do you want to look for promotion opportunities? Are you fine with where you are at once we hire you? They're just trying to figure out where it is that you're going. Another question that they will ask, what is something you do really well? That's a question that you don't want to hesitate on. There's all kinds of different things that you can talk about. Like maybe you do really well at customer service. You like to talk to people. You like to answer the phone. You like to be face to face and get to know people. Or maybe you're really organized and that's your special skill set where you have folders and binders and trays and all kinds of things to help make you be more efficient. Maybe you're more efficient and you want to talk about that. So typically I tell people, have two things ready to go that you're really good at and that you want to talk about, and make sure you have specific things of why you're good at. So like if you have an example, I'm really good at customer service. Well, why do you think you're really good at customer service? Have a story that you can tell them from maybe a previous employer, something like that, that shows how your customer service is where you think it's at. Another one that they will ask that, in my opinion, is a little bit harder because you have to be more careful of how you answer it, need to improve on. You don't want to come in there and say, oh, well, I'm late every day, so I need to work on being on time. That may ruin your chances at a position somewhere. So things that you could talk about is like being completely transparent. For me, I don't like to ask for help. I kind of like to be in control of things. So for me to go and say, can you help me with this? That's really hard for me to do sometimes. And it's something that I need to do better. So you really want to make sure that you think about that question and you have something that isn't going to be detrimental to who you are as an employee, but something that you're working on, and be honest with that approach and let them know, like, this is how I'm working on it. This is, I know I need to work on it, those types of things. Another question they may ask you is, if we were to call your current or last supervisor, what would they say about you? Again, you want to have a thoughtful answer. You don't want to do something like, again, I'm late every day, or I don't get along with any of my colleagues, or I'm really behind on all my projects that they give me. You want to make sure to have a really thoughtful answer to that. That way you don't put yourself into a hole, but you're being honest with what it is. And if you do a great job at that last employee and you work really well with everyone, you're always on time, you get your projects done, there's nothing wrong with you taking a few minutes and being able to brag about yourself and sell yourself to your new possible employer. They may ask you, what do you think this job does? What do you think that the job entails? And they're kind of looking for, how much research did you do? Did you just apply for this job because you need a job and you really don't care and it pays well and move forward? Or did you apply for this job because you really read the job description, you understand the job description, and you have a passion for what you would be doing? One of the things that we try to do here at Odessa College, we typically don't want to hire you because you think that the pay is good, because chances are what you're getting paid, how much effort are you going to be putting into the work that you're doing? So just be really careful with that question. That way you understand what's happening and what it is that you're going to be doing. Something else that this will be my last question that I think is commonly asked, and it's something that's becoming more happening more regularly, is, where do you see yourself in a few years? Are you going to be here for the long stretch? Are you here for 1 to 2 years? Are you looking to promote within a year? All answers are adequate. All answers work. I think best to be transparent and honest with that. We understand that nowadays, if maybe you are someone who's going to graduate in a year in marketing, but you're applying for an accounting job because that's what your background is. We as employers understand that you're going to want to go somewhere to fulfill that degree that you got. So just let us know. That way we know what kind of time span we're looking at. And if you want to get in somewhere and you plan on in 6 months to a year, you're hoping to promote, say that too. That way that they know that you're a go-getter and you're wanting to be with the company and you're wanting to move forward. So those are kind of the commonly asked questions that we see a lot. A lot of times, as an HR professional, just so you know, going in there, one of the things that we say, if you ask one applicant one question, you must ask the next applicant and the next applicant the same questions. So that's why a lot of times when you do go interview, you get those typical same questions. So really use that as practice. Something else that happens more and more recent, not necessarily saying it's a bad thing, but it is something that employers, HR things look at. If you are someone who has several jobs on your resume in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, be ready to talk about that, because that's something I know as an HR representative we're looking at. So in 5 years, you've had 3 jobs. What makes me think that you're going to stay at OC longer than a year? So, and a lot of times when you ask that question, there's very good reason behind it. Maybe there was a family emergency, you graduated from college or high school, or maybe you moved. There's a lot of reasons why that could happen. But just be prepared for it, because it is something that you may be asked for. And then something else when it comes to your resume and application that we see happen, be honest. Life happens to people, and sometimes bad decisions are made, or maybe life happens. So say if you are someone that got into some type of trouble. No matter what that situation could be, if you have something on your record, be upfront and honest about that. Most employers can work through that. They can work with you. They can put you in an area where that wouldn't be an issue. But if you are somewhere and you know you have something that could come up on a criminal record, you're not upfront about that information, they run a background check on you and something comes back, that could put you and them in a position where they can't offer you the job that you were applying for. So just be honest. That way you get that uncomfortable, and they're going to respect you for doing that. That way together you can come up with some type of answer and work together to work through that. And then some other just tips and hints, if you are applying for positions and you have a vacation planned, when you are made an offer or interviewing for that position, be upfront and honest, let them know. I would say 99% of the time they're going to honor that. I know here at OC, we hire lots of people that already have a vacation plan. And as long as we know about that in the hiring process, you're going to be able to take that vacation just like you had planned. And we can work through that, move on, and have plan B ready to go in your absence. And then one of the last tips that I'll share with you is if you are at an employer and you are wanting to apply for a promotion or a different position, whatever that looks like, make sure that you have that upfront conversation with your supervisor. Let them know that what it is that you've decided to do. That way, chances are you're going to be asked in your interview with your other representatives. You can be honest with them and say, yes, I've had that conversation. And then you're also just allowing your current supervisor to make plans if need be, if you are promoted or get the other position. So I think there's probably lots of different things that we could talk about, but I know I wanted to give you some time for question and answers in case there's something that I didn't think about. So does anyone have any questions for me?
Lindsay,
Yes,
I have
ma'am.
a question. So sometimes there's questions that are recommended you ask in interviews and some that you are recommended that you avoid. Do you have any tips on that?
I had that on my list and I forgot to talk about it. So always come to your interview prepared for 1 or 2 questions. So I would say like questions that would do really well are maybe what's the dress code? What does your benefit policy look like? What is vacation leaves or whatever you want to call that? What does that look like? Those are questions that you can ask and I think are well respected. You may have follow-up questions about the job description, what it is that they're asking. And I think that's fine to ask. I think it's fine to ask who you would be reporting to, what that reporting structure looks like. I'm trying to think of some questions that you may not want to ask. I may have to think about that. Because I think when in the interview, I would hope that most interviews are like a conversation piece. That way, at the end of it, you feel comfortable enough with the supervisor or hiring manager, whatever you want to call them, where you have that open conversation. So I don't think you may not want to ask, do you have a alcohol or drug policy on campus, where you may like think that that's what it is that you're doing. But other than that, I think as long as you have an open, honest conversation, any questions would work. Do we have any other questions? And one of the things too that we get a lot here in the HR office, it is perfectly fine for you to follow up with the HR representatives or not every company has like a HR base like we do, but whoever it is that is doing their hiring or scheduling interviews, anything like that, it's fine to call them. I would suggest that you maybe do it once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. We do sometimes get that one person that calls 3 times a week. You don't want to do that. A lot of times when different companies, like with us, yes, HR schedules interviews and we set up the interview times, things like that, but we really don't have a hand in the hiring process. We leave that to our interview committees, and our president has the final approval. So chances are, if you're calling me 3-4 times a week, I don't have an answer for you, because we're allowing the committee time to figure out what it is that they want to do. One of the other questions that is perfectly fine is a timeline. When do you think this position could be filled? When could I hear back from you? That's something. I noticed that somebody asked about, can pay be asked? I think that's perfectly fine. And I think it's I feel like the employer should offer that to you first. That way it's a good fit for you and them and no time's wasted. But I think it's perfectly fine for you to ask that question. That way you know what it is that they're offering you is something that's going to work for you or you and your family. And then that way you're being respectful enough of everyone's time. So I think you could definitely ask that. Is there resources to practice interview skills like a mock interview available? I know we don't have that here, like from the HR office. Is that a part of the career week at all that you all are doing?
Not any mock interviews, but if a student needs practice, or we can connect them with somebody that they could practice with, they can come visit us at the Pathways Advising Center, and we can connect them to a resource or a tutor or the LRC. So we can find the resource for you if you need to practice some of those interview skills.
Yeah, and here in the HR office, we would love to do that. So if you ever do have those questions or you want to do something, you're more than welcome to reach out to us. Diana Gutierrez, our human resources specialist, she's kind of become our interview guru. So you're more than welcome to reach out to her with any questions that you have. She talks to applicants all day and would be a great resource. And if interested, I could give you her email address and phone number for you to contact as well.
All right, awesome information. Thank you so much, Lindsay. Do we
You're
have
welcome.
any other questions that we want to ask Ms. Bryant before we conclude the session? I do want to make a quick announcement for those that joined us a little bit later. Please make sure to include your student ID number in the chat. Again, we will be giving away a prize for those that are attending today. So please make sure that you provide that information so we know who you are and we know who's in attendance. So if y'all can, please provide that for us. That'd be great. This session is also being recorded. So if you missed the beginning part of it, no worries. That's going to be circulated. So you'll have the opportunity to watch the entire session. But we want to thank Ms. Lindsay Bryant once more for coming to talk to us about interview skills and what to expect. So we really appreciate your time and appreciate all of you joining us today. Tomorrow will be the career fair. And so we're going to have 3 different sessions. One will be for health science, one for liberal arts and education, and one for business and industry. So keep an eye out for those times. We will have employers coming and talking about the vacancies that they have at their different companies and places of employment. So you don't want to miss it. So before we conclude, one more time, is there any other questions that we have?
Maria, can I throw one more thing out?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
So one thing too, this is just a shameless plug for Workforce Solutions. If any of you are currently looking for a position, we have this really cool program through Workforce Solutions that I don't think many of us know about. But if you are going to school to get your first time certificate, degree, whatever the case may be, even your GED, you can go through Workforce Solutions and they will help you they will help pay for your school, first of all, which I think is the best part, but then they will also help you find a job or career in your degree path. And they will also pay for your uniforms. They will pay for trainings. Like if we have somebody in nursing school right now and you want to get a job at a nursing home or something like that, workforce will help you get there. Then they will pay for all your scrubs to get you there, and then they will also help pay for your school. Same thing if you're looking to get into construction, electrician, anything like that. Again, they will pay for you to come here to OC, and then they will help you find a job in that area to get there. Again, we have great contact information for them as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, please feel free to give me a call, and I can get you with the right people to help you with that opportunity as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lindsay, and thank you to all the students that are joining us today as well. Again, we look forward to seeing you all tomorrow to learn more about all of the different opportunities here in the Permian Basin and beyond. So thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Have a good day.